Imagine a world where Beetlejuice doesn't exist. Adam Maitland finishes his model, Charles Dietz has a nervous breakdown, and Lydia Dietz feeling alone, utterly alone. Well, you get it. And Michael Keaton has to sexually assault some other dead lady.
Just say no.
But in that world, after flipping through thousands of pages that just didn't tickle his Gothic fancy, Tim Burton throws up his hands and agrees to direct Big Top Pee-wee. Yay.
Or imagine a world where the Addams Family is deleted from history. The Addams brothers are never tearfully reunited. Gordon Craven breaks Dolly Alford's legs trying to collect money, and Margaret Alford has to remain trapped in a loveless marriage to a man with 2 broken legs.
The choice is simple, but it's never easy. We will either be dancing the calypso or the mamushka at the end of today's episode.
This is The Essential Cut. Welcome to today's episode. Death is just the beginning, but family is forever. I'm Ian, one half of the Essential Cut podcast.
I am Michael, the other half.
And we are on a quest to build the greatest watch list of all time.
To accomplish this mighty task, we are using research, debate, the scientific method, and good old-fashioned vibes to arrive at the toughest decision a movie lover can make. Which movie to never watch again.
And when all of that doesn't work, and Michael and I still can't agree, we kick it to you, our audience, and use the power of democracy to determine which movie belongs on the Essential Cut watch list and which movie will be deleted forever. We've been doing this long enough, it's time to go over the state of the pod, Michael. We've been building a watch list and we have to start recapping what we've done. So last episode, we covered Drive a Nightcrawler. You and I had a split decision.
We had a split decision, and I wouldn't say I'm surprised that we had a split decision because it was such a hard decision.
It feels like the harder the decision we have, I almost feel like we react to what we think the other person's going to do, and then we end up splitting as a result because you never feel good about cutting either. Nightcrawler, such an awesome satire, such a dark piece of work, and then Drive, just like so much style. You don't want to let either of those movies go.
No, definitely not. And I went with the style. You went with the satire.
Yeah.
And now we just need to wait to see what everyone else thinks.
So definitely vote on that poll. We'll let you know as soon as we have all the results on it, which one is going to be on the list. And then how are we feeling about the list so far? So we started off with There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights.
Another Sophie's Choice.
We felt pretty good about Boogie Nights. So I feel like that was one where we both agreed. I will say the people disagreed.
The people disagreed pretty hard.
Yeah. Everybody went There Will Be Blood, which I wasn't surprised.
I'm not surprised either because cutting There Will Be Blood is absolutely a sin. But when pitted with just the binary choice of Boogie Nights or There Will Be Blood, I also feel pretty confident that we made the right choice of Boogie Nights.
Forcing that decision. And this also proves my earlier point, which is democracy doesn't work. Don't trust what the people say.
The people,
they're wrong.
Don't know anything.
No, we are the experts. We are using everything you mentioned. Like, we do the research, we do the hard thinking, and we come to the difficult decisions, except when we don't. And then we ask the people. And so, yeah, you're all wrong on this. We want you to know that, in fact, Boogie Nights does belong on the list. Yeah. But we had a pretty easy decision with that one, for the most part.
Speaking of the people being wrong, we did get poll results for our first split decision.
We did. So we split on Shaun of the Dead and Scream. And that was a tough one for me because I acknowledge the incredible importance of Scream. I love horror movies like you. I don't love slasher movies as much as you do, but it's such an influential movie that it connects with more than just slasher movies. And so cutting it for me was tricky, but I will tell you, the people spoke vociferously. They went for Shaun of the Dead. It was a 5% to 95% vote.
That split is crazy to me. The ultimate result, not so much. I think Shaun of the Dead is like, is it old enough to be a classic? I don't know, but it's definitely approaching like cult classic territory. It's a movie that people have a lot of love for. Mm-hmm. And so I could see the feelings about that movie being really, really strong and people feeling protective of that movie and wanting to save it. Scream for me was it was formative. It actually was a movie that sort of taught me a little bit about cinematic language. It's the movie that got me into the horror movies that I still love so much. So I think it is essential, and I will, break all the rules and continue watching that movie and revisiting it.
You're not allowed to do that. We have officially cut it from the watch list. We did everything.
Terrible.
It's gone. So Shaun of the Dead wins. We're adding it to the watch list. Yeah. Somebody put the graphic up on the screen.
And Well, maybe, probably not. Maybe I'll get my revenge, and a movie that you are very strongly emotionally connected to will get cut when we get the next poll results.
So we do have another poll that's happened between these two. We have split a couple of times in the last several episodes. We are now going to also be waiting on a poll for Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I do not think you're going to get your way on this one.
I think you might win on name recognition.
It's funny, we say I win, you win, but the reality is I don't think...
The reality is no one's winning.
The movie will wind up on the list, because I'm not campaigning for Close Encounters. I think I made... That was also a really difficult decision, especially that was my first watch for Invasion, and I really loved it.
Right, and I
really... I was shocked at how good I thought that movie was. I thought it was going to be fine.
And much like you, I 100% appreciate the importance of Close Encounters. I love Close Encounters. Absolutely love Close Encounters. Great movie. Invasion of the Body Snatchers just made me feel something. I don't think I liked what I felt, but it made me feel it pretty strongly.
Well, and this is kind of why I went Nightcrawler, was because it made me feel something. And I was like, well, I went against Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And then, as I mentioned in the episode, we went against Sorcerer because we've added Treasure of Sierra Madre.
That's a movie that's criminally underseen, and I wish we could encourage more to see it. But you're not going to beat Treasure of Sierra Madre.
I know. We might have put it up against an Indisputable. We have a couple more pairings coming up where I'm a little bit worried about, putting movies that are just indisputable classics against really good movies, because sometimes no matter how much you like a really good movie, when you rewatch that indisputable classic or see it for the first time, you just sort of get it. You're like, oh yeah, that's why this movie has lasted for 80 years, which was the case for The Treasure of Sierra Madre. It's just so watchable.
It's
so relevant. Perfect. It really is. It's superb. So our watch list is shaping up pretty nicely, though, I gotta say.
I agree.
I think the movies we've got on there, if you want to watch great movies and have access to the best watch list of all time.
Of all time.
You go to upleftmedia.com. We'll be posting that watch list, and of course, we'll have it on graphics on the screen here, and you'll know what movies to watch, and you'll never have to think about it ever again.
Never again. There's too much out there. Yep. We're whittling it down, doing the hard work for you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Be grateful. Like, subscribe. Watch all the new episodes.
Don't trust the Netflix algorithm. Trust the Essential Cut. We're making those tough calls.
I know. Speaking of tough calls,
okay.
Today, we have another one. We are pitting Beetlejuice against the Addams Family.
Who decided on this pairing?
Two Gothic comedies. But what else do they have in common? Why are these two movies the ones that are against each other, Ian?
Well, I think they carry a lot of late 80s and early 90s nostalgia, particularly for a special group of people. I think that they deal a lot with the domestic sphere. I think there's some great production design. And then we also have two directors that have very different but very kinetic styles between Barry Sonnenfeld and Tim Burton. It felt really good to put these two movies against each other. I think Beetlejuice has been much more in the conversation lately because of the sequel that came out, which was fine. Let's be honest. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good.
I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a good time. There were parts of it that worked, parts of it that didn't. It was fine. But it brought the original back, and I think there was a lot of marketing around rewatching the original and people having fun with it. And the original's great. We love the original. But the Addams Family has kind of faded a little bit. There's some animated versions of it now. I haven't seen them. Have you?
No, I know. The two of them in the last not very long came out. I think they did well enough that there's two.
Yeah. I've never been a big Addams Family guy. And I kind of want to put these movies up together, too, because, we've gone over this in previous versions of the pod. I had a weird childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, little weird.
Little strange.
Little strange, right? Watching Commando was okay. Watching Beetlejuice, not okay. He's a demon.
Well, evil. Beetlejuice also has a unique...
Got the F word.
Twice.
I thought only once.
Maybe I'm...
He was only allowed to say it once when he grabs his junk and honks it.
But it also
okay, though. It wasn't the F word that was the problem. It was the
it was
demon
probably
possession
the sort of anti-Judeo-Christian view of the afterlife that would have been the problem.
Dude, this view of the afterlife, the fact that this movie became as popular as it did in such a Judeo-Christian society, because I love when movies. I mean, we did Ghost in a previous version of this too, right? And top grossing movie of all time, and that movie goes against literally everything the people in this country purport to believe about the afterlife. It is as anti-Christian as it could be. Beetlejuice the same, and yet people super dig these movies, which I like it.
They're fun. So so these movies, we're pitting them against each other, and it's not arbitrary. we have rules, we have tests, we have a method here.
We do.
And so we are going to
Great thought goes into this. There's like a whole boardroom of people we discuss which movies to pit against each other before one finally floats up to the top like cream to be pitted against another great movie.
I mean, there's at least boards that are used.
Wow. For everyone just listening to this, he pointed to one of our whiteboards that we use for putting our votes on.
And they're in a room.
And it was embarrassing for all parties involved.
You're welcome.
I think we should leave the jokes to me.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, you'll be funny one day.
Rude. So the first test, we're going to explore the legacy of the movie, where it fits into sort of the cinema landscape, its cinematic importance.
Its lineage, as it were.
Lineage.
A little bit of how it got made.
Came before it, what it may be influenced afterward.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the emotional punch. This is where, how does the movie affect us, right? Like, what do we connect to emotionally in the movie? It could be the plot, it could be a performance, it could be a style, but it's the things that impact us as we're watching the movie, right? Last week we talked about Drive, right? That was a big emotional connection movie.
I think we awarded Nightcrawler to the emotional connection. I think we did.
That's crazy.
I think we both were like, this one makes us feel terrified. Because that is the thing. It's like, do you feel joy?
Do you feel something, right?
Do you feel scared? Like, what is the thing you get? Do you feel nostalgia? In the case of the movies, we're going to be going over a lot of nostalgia about both of these films.
Yeah. And then we are going to talk about whether it's entertaining. And that is... What do you feel about, the question of entertaining? I think that's maybe the most interesting test.
I think it is too, because it's the most nebulous test, right? Like even though it's weird, you think emotional connection would be more nebulous, but I can usually say like, did this make me laugh? Did this make me cry? Did this make me feel nostalgic? Did I get goosebumps? Did I get scared? But when it comes to entertaining, I literally think to myself, can I sit back with a box of popcorn and just like turn my brain off? Like, I literally think, how close is it to F1 or Top Gun Maverick? Like, that's kind of what I think in my head for like the feeling I had when I saw those movies in theaters. Is it accomplishing those tasks? And how well is it doing it?
I think it's really important to step back and ask that question, because as we're going through this, we're trying to be methodical. We're analyzing movies. We don't want to forget the reason we go to movies in the first place, which is to be entertained.
To have a good time. Absolutely. I know. You can get so heady about these things, which we do. But at the end of the day, if you're not having a good time at the movies, what are you doing? Which I will say again, go see I Love Boosters. It's a good time at the movies. And if it's on streaming by the time this comes out, then watch it there. I don't know, but just watch it. It's so fun. Okay.
Boosters.
All
right.
I love Boosters.
Well, Ian, is it time to get to work?
I think it is, in fact, time to get to work. So let's start by exploring where Beetlejuice fits into the cinemascape. So it looks like it opened on March 30th of 1988 with $84.6 million box office on a $15 million budget. This was a pretty small movie. Tim Burton, pretty new director, and this was a huge hit. So let's now jump into, I'm going to try to pronounce this guy's name, Haris Zambarloukas. An interview he did with Panavision.
He really has found a way of expressing himself through a format in a very, very unique way, a very expressive way. I think the untold characteristic and feature is an incredible humanity and warmth. You can't talk about looking at the world differently without showing the world in a different way. And I think Tim Burton really takes not just the audience, but his whole crew through this incredible journey.
So that was Haris Zambarloukas. Is that what we're landing on?
It sounds very Greek.
He is a cinematographer. He's best known for his work with Kenneth Branagh. But he was brought on.
What movies did he do with Kenneth Branagh?
Murder on the Orient Express.
He didn't do Thor, did he?
I don't think he did Thor.
Okay, good. Because whoever did that should be launched out of the cannon into the sun.
They should be cut from the essential watch list.
Yeah, I don't know who I just attacked. Sorry for the blind side on whoever did the cinematography for Thor, but continue.
Yeah, but he was brought in to shoot the sequel, Beetlejuice, and was discussing how Burton's style, which is what we talk about a lot, it's what he was tasked with capturing, connects to the sort of emotional center of movies. He also did a BBC interview around the same time where he said of the original Beetlejuice, the movie we're discussing today, that he had never seen anything like it. He knew it bridged so many rivers of inspiration and visual complexity. And it was before he knew that he wanted to make movies. And it was a movie that stuck with him and that he brought into his work.
He did do Thor.
He did do Thor? Oh, dang.
Sorry, Harris.
Rude.
Yeah, that movie's camera work is very distracting. I am getting us off topic. Yes. I mean, the first time I saw Beetlejuice, and I didn't see it when I was a kid, I think I felt the same way. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what I was watching because the visual style was so, I mean, otherworldly.
Yeah, and I think
sense.
As people who watch a lot of movies, that does a lot for me. I don't know about for you, but whenever I watch something that feels like it takes me somewhere different, where I'm doing something unique, it doesn't feel rote, I tend to really connect to movies.
Yes. I think at least it gets me paying attention. It doesn't always necessarily deliver. Like, I can think of several Guy Ritchie movies where I was like, oh, it looks different, it feels good, and then you get about 30 minutes in and you're like, but it's it's
not
kind
a lot of there.
Yeah, it's empty. Or, I mean, that's fine. I don't need it. I'm just attacking everybody on today's episode.
So rude.
I love Snatch. I like some Guy Ritchie movies, but some feel like they're more style than substance. Whereas I think Tim Burton at his best was actually finding a way to like marry both. I think Beetlejuice is a really good example of it.
Yeah. In terms of its sort of critical reception, it is not on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies list, but it is number 88 on the 100 Years, 100 Laughs list.
Oh, it is.
So the American Film Institute did recognize it as one of the 100 best American comedies of the last 100 years.
Interesting. I wonder if I agree with that. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think of it first and foremost as a comedy, even though it is very funny.
It's weird because like you said that, and at first I was like, oh, it's on a comedy list, and I was like, yeah, it's a comedy. I don't know what else I would classify it as. Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah. It is in the New York Times 1,000 Essential Movies book.
And right here, yeah. They blindsided it. So they published the original reviews. They say that it's not funny. They say that it is relatively empty. They say that the Maitlands are boring characters that are unbelievably dumb, that you can't believe that like they don't know how to read an instruction manual, and like that is like it stretches believability to its limits. It says that it's basically all style, no substance, is what the review says from the New York Times. But
yet it's one of the 1,000 most essential movies.
Well, what's interesting is the New York Times, they have their various reviewers over the years all published in here, right? But then these two folks, Manola Dargis and A.O. Scott, put together what they thought were the 1,000 essential movies and then republished those reviews. And I think it's a really interesting look into like, what did we think then versus what do we think now? I don't think it's necessarily like revisionist history, because you will see that sometimes where like publications will re-review something when they got it wrong, which I think that's bullshit.
That's bullshit, but I think understanding how a movie lives through the culture and then revisiting it through that lens is absolutely a valid way to look at a movie.
I love when I see a movie that has a bad review that's in here, because it means that they are reevaluating. And I love that Beetlejuice is in here. Of the movies that we've thought should be in here, that wasn't at the top of my list of the ones where I was like surprised.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was actually more surprised to see it in here than not. But alas, yeah, they consider it essential. So we'll see if we agree.
Yeah, we will find out soon enough.
Teaser.
It's not in IMDb's top 250. It's not really close. It's 1,049. Doesn't make the Letterboxd top 500. Has a 3.7 average Letterboxd rating.
That's kind of low.
It's a little low. I think, Drive and Nightcrawler were like
3.9 and 3.8.
3.9 and, or was it 4.0 and 3.9? Something like that.
I can't remember. Yeah. The last few movies we've done have been all 3.9s and 4.0s, kind of around in that. Yeah. So this is one of the lower Letterboxd ratings we've done recently, which I wonder how much of that, though, is just reactionary to the sequel coming out and a lot of people going back and rewatching. And I also wonder how much it's fall on the IMDb numbers, because I don't think it was in the top, but it does seem very low. But again, like it probably popped when the sequel came out and then probably dipped after that because everybody had rewatched it, and then they were kind of
get like reaction to reaction instead of the movie itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. I did pull a review that I found funny. It's from Matt Singer, who is a legit movie critic. He's an author, worked for IFC News, is a member of the New York Film Critics Circle.
Ooh. So that's why it's a novel.
And he quotes Beetlejuice saying, "I'll eat anything you want me to eat. I'll swallow anything you want me to swallow. But come on down and I'll chew on a dog." A line spoken by the undead title character of Beetlejuice a few scenes before he makes a jerk-off motion and then produces snakes from his face to prove he can be scary. The scene ends with Beetlejuice dropping an F-bomb, which you mentioned earlier, and grabbing his crotch, which emits a honking sound like an old-timey car horn. This movie is rated PG, 3.5 stars.
So I want to know, when he grabs his crotch and it makes that sound, I'm assuming it's a diegetic sound.
I hope so.
And that means that there is air in his scrotum, and that sound is the air escaping from his urethra.
I prefer to think that the laws of physics and sound are just different in the afterlife.
Well, you go ahead and you think that, but that's what happened.
Sometimes I hate you.
I know. Oftentimes you hate me. I feel like you've told me that you hate me several times on this show. We could probably do a supercut at this point.
And then there is some influence that Beetlejuice has had in the years since its release. It did spawn a animated TV series, some comic books. There was a Broadway musical, which might be most famous for Congresswoman Lauren Boebert groping her partner and vaping while watching it.
Oh, they were at the Beetlejuice?
They were at the Beetlejuice musical.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, the aforementioned sequel, Beetlejuice.
Yes.
So this movie has had some legs, had some influence, has spun off some new media. Couple filmmakers. Guillermo del Toro praises the movie. He wrote an Entertainment Weekly article called 7 Movies That Work and included Beetlejuice, calling it a sly, working stiff version of Dante's Inferno and the film where Tim Burton found his voice. So he thinks this is sort of the start of the Tim Burton that we know and sometimes love today.
I mean, I don't think that's a hot take.
I don't think it's a hot take.
Yeah, I was like, it's his second movie. The first one's with Paul Rubens doing Pee-wee because they were friends, and that's Paul Rubens' voice.
But it definitely birthed the Gothic sensibilities that I think we think of Tim Burton. Tim Burton actually has more variety in his filmography than I think he gets credit for. But we think of The Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd, and those are all directly from Beetlejuice.
I know. It's interesting because our favorite, I hope I'm not speaking for you, is Ed Wood, which is not at all.
Not at all. But Ed Wood, I think, we'll talk a little bit later. I think there's a little bit of a thorough line of connection there.
Oh, I think there is. But I think that visual style is one of the things I love about Ed Wood, is that it feels very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Diablo Cody described Beetlejuice as the gold standard for how to seamlessly blend high school teenage angst with campy undead body horror when she was writing her horror comedy Lisa Frankenstein. And before they were hired to write the sequel, Alfred Goff and Miles Miller, who are the showrunners for Wednesday, shaped their approach to modern Gothic fiction on the influence of Beetlejuice. And I also think that Beetlejuice, it should be mentioned, has a direct connection to the Addams Family. The success of Beetlejuice led Orion to sort of greenlight the Addams Family. They actually tried to hire Tim Burton to direct it. He said no. He was saying no to lots of stuff.
He said no to a lot. Yeah.
So that connection is direct.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was sort of the early 90s Gothic comedy streak that started kind of with the Addams Family, but there was Casper, Hocus Pocus, Death Becomes Her.
I fucking love Death Becomes Her. I love that movie so much. I wish that movie had done better because I think we'd have a different Zemeckis if it had.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I know.
I would prefer that Zemeckis.
I would prefer that Zemeckis. Maybe we should do that one at some point. That's a great movie.
We definitely should.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
It is.
So Beetlejuice, I think it definitely has its following. It is prominent in the culture. I think even people who haven't seen the movie are familiar with the character and certain sort of visual scenes or set pieces from the movie. I think there's a legacy there.
Oh, I think there's a huge legacy. This is another case where, not unlike Drive, where it's not just a cinema influence, but it is very much a cultural influence. I mean, you can still buy Beetlejuice shit at like Hot Topic and Spencer's and stuff because he's a monolithic character in film, which is funny, and we'll get into it because he has so little screen time.
Very little
in the original film, but it's just so much, and I'm sure you'll get into it as well, how much Michael Keaton had to do with inventing and crafting that character. But we'll save that. Let's get into the Addams Family. Let's start off with a little interview with Barry Sonnenfeld, super interesting, super neurotic director and former cinematographer for the Coens.
Were you a film nut as a kid? Did you watch as many movies as you could get to?
No, I'm actually a film illiterate. I think I've only seen the joke on the set of the Addams Family was the only movie I had ever seen was Dr. Strangelove, which I've seen about 300 times. Growing up, I was anything but a film buff. I never went to the movies. I thought that movies sort of gave you a distorted sense of romance. I thought that, also, if you weren't going to a movie with sort of a beautiful blonde woman, it meant that you were a loser. And I still hadn't met anyone, sitting in the car waiting at Jones Beach. So I didn't go to movies at all. I was not a movie buff, and the only reason I went to NYU Graduate Film School was truly a lack of anything to do and figuring if I went to film school, it meant I was out of the workplace for 3 more years. I was very interested in still photography. I had my own darkroom and a Leica and spent a lot of time taking still photographs. But movies didn't interest me at all.
It's that kind of passion that leads to great movie making.
It's funny because I like a lot of Sonnenfeld movies. But yeah, he really didn't have an interest in movies. That's an interview with him on Fresh Air with Terry Gross on November 27th of 1991, right around Addams Family actually coming out.
There.
Yeah, right there. I've listened to other interviews with him. I've heard him say this multiple times, both about not having interest in movies and actually not really being interested in being a director. And so that kind of gets us to the making of this movie. So Scott Rudin really wanted the Addams Family to become a movie, wanted to bypass all of the negative sentiment with the television show. It hadn't actually done very well. Most people were actually more familiar with the Munsters than with the Addams Family because it had gone into syndication. It was well liked. Did you watch the Munsters when you were?
Yeah, it was on Nick at Night.
I loved the Munsters.
Yeah.
I remember when the Addams Family movie came out and thinking, that looks like knockoff Munsters. I'm not interested. Which is funny because actually the Addams Family was
the opposite, right?
It was a New Yorker cartoon that had then been turned into a TV show, at which point the New Yorker actually removed the panel because they're like, we don't want to be associated with like that low art of TV, by the way.
That's the most New Yorker thing that could ever be done.
What do you do? I mean, it's the 60s, right? But so it has this very peculiar history. Rudin, totally normal guy. Everybody loves Scott Rudin. He really wanted this made, though, and so he brought it to Tim Burton. Mm-hmm. Tim Burton said no. He brought it to Terry Gilliam, and Terry Gilliam said no. But he really wanted somebody who had a strong visual flair, strong style, because the Addams Family is so stylistic. It's so monochromatic. There are these very specific shapes. Like, getting Morticia right was really important, and who could possibly do it? And so he goes to Barry Sonnenfeld, who's never directed a film before, who has been the Coen cinematographer. He did Miller's Crossing. He had done Raising Arizona. And then he did Blood Simple. Those are the 3 he did for them. He'd also just finished Misery with Rob Reiner.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And he did When Harry Met Sally. He liked being a cinematographer. He was interested in light. He was interested in photography. He wasn't interested in directing. He initially turned down Rudin. He was like, no, because I like being a cinematographer. But he also was famously very, very nervous. He has lots of anxiety issues. He's spoken about them on interviews. He talks about using his weakness as strength. And he was just like, I don't want that kind of pressure either. But they wore him down and got him to agree to do this. They really wanted his kinetic camera style. If you've seen Raising Arizona, what that means. I hold an unpopular opinion, which Raising Arizona is not one of my favorites. I actually don't like that camera style in that movie. I do like it in the Addams Family, I will, however, say. I think it actually works really well for this particular subject matter. But let's get a little bit into some of the influence on this movie, because this movie actually hasn't had that much influence on other movies. In fact, it's sort of been almost subjugated to Beetlejuice's influence, where it's like they've blended into other films, but I don't think it's ever been a primary influence.
Yeah, they're discussed together a lot. I didn't realize that. That's not why we picked the two.
No.
We sort of discovered that after the fact.
Yeah, it's it's actually hard to separate them after they're both produced. When you see filmmakers that are making this sort of like macabre Gothic style film, they basically are like Beetlejuice and the Addams Family, Beetlejuice and the Addams Family. But visual style-wise, they're actually quite different. So this film pulls a lot from German Expressionism. If you go back and look at Nosferatu or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Like, it's funny because Beetlejuice does the same.
I know. But it's like, but this is almost leaning more into it, though, where you have these really, really stark lines, high contrast shots. So much of it is monochromatic. Like, Beetlejuice is much more colorful.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you could have probably shot most of the Addams Family in black and white, and you might not have noticed because of how much it's desaturated. A lot of the look of this film, too, is very reliant on the fact that Sonnenfeld was, in fact, a cinematographer. And so he directed the movie when he sat down with his initial cinematographer, which we'll get into this. He basically said, you can shoot my movie, but I choose the lenses, I choose the film stock.
That's crazy.
And you're never allowed to pan.
Okay.
And the cinematographer said, all right, whatever, you're making my job easier. I don't care. Like, you clearly know what you're doing. And so he basically was kind of running cinematography from the background, which this is why this movie feels so much like it's shot by the guy who shot Raising Arizona, is because Sonnenfeld is, in fact, sort of like ghost cinematographering, shooting this movie, whatever. That cinematographer, so things took a bit longer than they anticipated. He took another job and he had to leave. So then they brought on a second cinematographer who Sonnenfeld does not speak super highly of. You can always tell when somebody wasn't happy with the work. They're like, oh yeah, he was good, but not as good. And you're like, oh, okay, so you hated him, right? He got sick and had to leave the film. And then Sonnenfeld ended up just taking over cinematography duties, like, point in fact. And so he ends up finishing shooting the movie. But you can actually see it a little bit because I want to get a little bit into more influence as well as some of the style of the lighting. Morticia's eye light. So this has an interesting little history that is worth getting into, which is the way they shot her eyes. You'll notice there's always a stripe of light across it. So the eye light they used to light Morticia's face originated in the film The Lodger that the film's cinematographer Pascal Lebègue used to conceal scarring along the lower portion of Orban's face because she'd gotten in a car accident. So they found a way to set up the light where it was basically right around the lens of the camera, creating this stripe of light across the eyes, emphasizing what came to be known as the eye light. And when they started shooting The Addams Family, Barry Sonnenfeld also said, I do not care the context. I do not care about the set. Morticia will always be shot as though she is not part of this world. She will be shot in a completely different light. She will always stand out in this way. And this is very important. And you see the eye light, but then you notice the eye light, and maybe this is as the cinematographers faded and they had issues, kind of fades as well. When you get into Addams Family values, it's much stronger. They actually do a far better job of making sure she always has that perfect eye light. But that's its origins, and that's how it came to be. So fun little movie fact, but you don't really see that eye light used too much in movies anymore. It's kind of like a relic of the past of Gothic. I'd love to see it come back. This is a place where I'm like, oh, it hasn't had a lot of influence over film lately, but why not? Like, let's bring back some of that stark lighting.
Yeah, I like when modern movies pay homage to the things that came before it in less obvious ways. Something as specific as eye light is always fun.
Yeah. All right, so little release details. Came out on November 22nd of 1991 at $191.5 million box office on a $30 million budget, which was supposed to be a $25 million budget, which originally was supposed to be a $15 million budget. But they were not displeased with it when that happened. However, it did not save Orion because they sold it before they were able to make their profits.
Yeah, that's the sick irony is that the ballooning budget didn't help Orion survive, but if they could have held on just a little bit longer, it would have saved them.
Would have been interesting. The budget was so bad that Barry Sonnenfeld said that he was getting phone calls while they were on set saying, you can paint the pillars, but not the wall. We don't have the money for the paint.
That's insane.
I know. So not on the AFI Top 100, not in the New York Times 1000 Essential Films. It is 2,240 on IMDb, so even lower. Not on the Letterboxd Top 500. And I chose a review from Letterboxd. Its average rating is 3.8 on there, by the way. Another higher one, but 5.8 thousand fans. Here's a review by Lindsay Flower. The world is too cruel and does not deserve our horny goth parents, Gomez and Morticia.
They are quite horny.
They
quite
are
gothic.
They're so horny. I love how horny they are. I actually really like how horny both of these movies are.
Yeah.
I miss when movies, like, when people had sex in movies. Like, fuck yeah. It's great.
Yeah, they're both like PG, ostensibly family movies, but they both fuck.
But they're a little dirty. We can kind of talk a little bit, about what it influenced. Again, it's not a lot. It kind of gets married to them things you already mentioned, but also Hotel Transylvania was a bit. You can see it in some animated films, and actually the Despicable Me franchise. A lot of those sort of like stark lines and stark contrast.
Oh, the shape of like the house, I think, fits. Yeah,
yeah, and I would even say the shape of what's the main character? Groot. Yeah, like his sort of like posturing and the way he stands, because Morticia is this like silhouette cutout. In fact, all of the characters are sort of these iconic silhouette cutouts that, I mean, Beetlejuice is so electric. He's almost made out of jelly. Like he's amorphous. He moves around so much. Whereas Morticia, Gomez, Wednesday, they are like silhouette cutouts of very strict shapes.
I mean, I may be inventing this in my brain, but I feel like either with one of these movies, one of the animated movies, something like they actually advertise with just the silhouettes, and you're able to recognize them.
I think I recall
Addams
something
Family.
like that. Yeah. And then there are influences in the Netflix revival Wednesday, of course, as well. Because how could you not, right? And in fact, they even brought Christina Ricci back for that. And so that's kind of where the Addams Family lives in the zeitgeist right now, and some of its influences that it's gotten. So that means it is now time to make the first decision. We're going to award the film that has the most cinematic importance.
Let's go. I think this one's an easy one.
I think it's a quick one, right?
All right, ready?
I'm as ready as I can be. Let's just do it.
Yeah, we're both saying Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice is 100% the more cinematically important movie. Not only did it influence Addams Family, it also is in the conversation even when Addams Family influenced another movie.
Yeah, I think when one movie becomes sort of that deeply connected with the one it's being compared to, it's not a comparison anymore.
Well, and the interesting thing, though, is that the visual style really of Addams Family is very Sonnenfeld. It really is, but because Beetlejuice was such a huge monster in terms of just like style and cultural impact, that Addams Family sort of gets sucked into it, even though I think
and it made more money.
I know, but I think it's more visually distinct than it gets credit for. But it doesn't change the fact that because that happened, Addams Family just gets looped into the conversation.
Yeah,
we've made our decision on which movie is more cinematically important. Beetlejuice takes it pretty easy.
Yeah,
we're now going to move into which movie packs the bigger emotional punch. Let's start off by looking at Beetlejuice.
Babs. Boy, do you know how to pick 'em. Let me ask you something. Is this relationship really solid? Do I have a shot at her at all?
Excuse me.
Sure. Have I overstepped my bounds? Just tell me. Come on. You know what's really beautiful about this? You two kids picked me. You didn't have to, but you picked me. It makes me want to kiss you guys. Come on. Come on. Give me one. Come on. You're Harlan, huh? All right, let's get down to business. You're right. I got a card around here somewhere. Here. Who do I have to kill? Here, hold that for me, would you? There.
Whoa!
There you go.
You don't have to kill anybody.
Possession. Good. Learn to throw your voice. Fool your friends. Fun and party.
No, we just want to get some people out of our house.
I understand. Well, look, in order to do that, I'm really going to have to get to know you guys. You know, we got to get closer. Move in with you for a while. Get to be real pals. You know what I'm saying? Save that guy for later, huh?
My wife and I would like to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure. Go ahead, shoot.
Well, for instance, what are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
It's impossible to talk about Beetlejuice without talking about Beetlejuice. That scene is our introduction to the character. He shows up a little bit earlier in like a TV commercial. But this is where our characters meet Beetlejuice for the first time. I think we just listened to 2 of the grand total of 18 minutes of screen time Michael Keaton has in this 92-minute movie. But I think that speaks to what Michael Keaton brought to this performance. He plays it like a manic, unhinged Looney Tunes character with like the sound effects and all that we heard in there. And I mean, for my money, I think he strikes the balance perfectly. I think, you know, he's the exact right amount of too much. And I think you could have pushed it a little bit farther and maybe lost the audience. If it was any more contained, I don't know that we would have remembered him as much as we did. I don't think he would have been the iconic character that he is.
I think it took us as a society way too long to learn to appreciate Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton's great.
He was showing us in 1988 that he's one of the best performers that ever lived. And it took us until like 2005 to go, what about that Michael Keaton guy?
Yeah, and I think this scene shows it, right? He pivots a couple times here from being grotesque and scary to threatening in the way he just like grabs them physically and like has his way with them. He plays the straight man when pitching his qualifications. He's doing so much in so little time with such a bizarre character.
I actually was surprised when you did some of the research that you didn't find any connection to things like Ace Ventura or Dumb and Dumber, and Jim Carrey were like really leaning into that type of like very, very hyper manic energy, but that is also like precise and controlled. I mean, we talked about this on even Bowfinger with like Eddie Murphy doing that, and like how hard it is to nail that balance between being seeming out of control, but having more control than anybody else in the scene.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hilarious to me that, you know, the movie's called Beetlejuice. He's what we remember. He's hardly in it at all. But he's just this iconic character that spun off all of this media that is instantly recognizable. You see the striped suit, you know it's Beetlejuice. And that, you know, didn't come from the script. It comes from Michael Keaton just absolutely sucking all of the air out of the room when he's there and being like all encompassing.
Well, he took over this role. He like did his own makeup. He basically didn't do anything on script. You know that, right? Like
I believe it.
Yeah, like everything he said was like 4% script from my understanding. Like he was owning so much of this role. He just made it with Tim Burton where he's like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do this thing, and that's the only way I'm going to do this role. And they agreed, and it...
Well, and I think that's great because the character is just chaos personified. So if the people making the movie don't even know what's going to happen, and he's just throwing curveball after curveball.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the magic came from, obviously.
It's a really, really unique character. And I think this is both a strength and a weakness for me in this section in that I basically love this movie when he's on screen. And the rest of the time, I'm kind of waiting for him to be on screen.
Yeah, I think, you know,
the Maitlands are so, like, they're supposed to be vanilla.
Are boring.
But they're mad boring.
That serves a narrative purpose.
Yes. But they have so much screen time. That's the problem, is that your boring characters end up being sort of like this like balancing point for all of the rest of the movie, but they are not fun to hang out with.
No. There are other performances, though, that also are smaller, right? The Maitlands are the main, they're the ones we spend the most time with. But, you know, in between our time with Beetlejuice, we get Delia Dietz, played by Catherine O'Hara.
Oh, the queen.
Who,
the saint.
I mean, I think
the patron saint of weirdness and being everyone's favorite mom.
Yeah, so she's the foil of the movie. But she's not a straight villain, right? She's not a villain that we despise. We don't hate this character, but she's a great foil to the Maitlands. And part of that is, I think it's impossible to hate Catherine O'Hara. No matter what she's doing, I'm going to love Catherine O'Hara. And so she has to have, I think, a bit of a wink to her to work in this movie.
I disagree.
You disagree?
She is neither foil nor villain. I think she's the hero of the movie. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And
flesh this out.
Yeah, so I want to flesh this out. I think Charles Dietz is the villain.
Okay.
And I think
he sucks.
It's not just that he sucks, though. I think Charles Dietz and then who's the real estate agent / family member or whatever. I think they're the two true villains of the movie because they're the ones who are trying to monetize rustic culture.
Yeah.
They're trying to turn a profit no matter what is happening. I think that Delia Dietz, she is an artist. She makes things with her hands. This is actually something she has more in common with Adam Maitland. Is that I think that's his name, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Adam Maitland, then she actually does anyone else. In fact, if you look through the characters, they all have a bit of artisan and artist to them, except for Charles Dietz. So Lydia Dietz is a photographer. Delia, She creates sculpture. She creates art. She creates design. They don't
They're
like
really
her.
bad.
But that's not the point, though, right? It's not about taste necessarily. It's more about the fact that she creates, she makes. She does not consume the way everyone else does. Now, she's concerned with status, and so I'm not saying she's a perfect character, right? But what she's doing really as a quote-unquote foil is she's just trying to redesign a home that she moved into. She's trying to make it her own space. And who would ever fault a person for wanting to make their space their own, especially a maternal figure? I think that she is a grossly misunderstood hero of the movie. And because she's in conflict with what the Maitlands want, it makes her feel like a foil, when in fact what Charles Dietz is doing in trying to both monetize the town and then sell it back to a New York investor is the truly villainous act, and that he doesn't understand the artist in his life.
That's fair. I think
Not putting up debate?
I don't disagree that, yeah, where she comes from is more earnest. But I do think that there is this like conflict in the movie between her and the Maitlands, right? There's the irony that the Maitlands, being the dead ones, are the ones that are really connected to the things that an audience is most likely to value, right?
Of course. They represent the blue collar, sort of like middle class. They're
traditional, they're grounded, they're kind of obsessed with their home and homemaking and family building. Whereas the living characters, the Dietzes, they're chaotic, they're loud, they're pretentious, they're artificial.
And they make dead things. I mean, a lot of her sculptures look like dead bugs.
I don't think we can just bypass the materialism of Delia Dietz and her, like you said, obsession with status. I don't know that she is an artist for art's sake so much as she's an artist because she wants to be seen as an artist who makes art that people think is important.
Fair. Her motivations may be tainted, but I don't think it changes the fact that she is still a maker and that she still is interested in transforming spaces into her own and not necessarily for the sake of monetary gain. She does do it for status gain, which I do agree with that, right? But, I mean, her lines, and I think that they are sincere, which is like, if you do not let me make something, I will go crazy. And I think that there is something at the heart of that makes her a very likable character. And I think that this is recognized in the sequel, because what does the sequel do? It focuses on the Dietzes. It actually makes the living.
It really does humanize them quite a lot.
Into heroic characters, because I think looking at the film through that lens, you start to realize, no, these actually, like, you want to dislike Delia Dietz because she's the evil stepmom. She takes Valium. She has all of these sort of trappings of someone that you associate with being sort of like vapid and shallow. But she really is a three-dimensional person that really is going through something pretty difficult, both as a stepmother and as someone being dragged out of an incredibly urban, high-status environment into a place that is incredibly rustic and disconnected. Like, I have empathy for her journey, and I have a lot of, while I may not love her art, I have a love for the fact that she wants to make art.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing. Like, I like this character. I like what Catherine O'Hara brings to this character. I think she's so fun. She sort of throws caution to the wind. It's a very physical performance. And then, of course, Delia Dietz is obviously the spiritual precursor to Moira Schitt from Schitt's Creek, in that she has this like disconnected, sort of pretentious and self-unaware aspect to herself. I see a direct lineage.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I could, like, Moira is such like from another planet, but you put 30 years between the two of them, and I can see that.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the last performance to chat about is Winona Ryder as Lydia Dietz.
I love her. I love her in this.
She's really good. She is the emotional anchor of the movie. The movie, if we're talking about kind of what works, what doesn't work, part of what doesn't work is sort of the pacing and the story structure. You almost have two movies glued together. You have the first half that's really about the Maitlands figuring out death and being dead. And then it shifts into this sort of the reverse haunted house story that's a little more focused on the Dietzes. But Lydia's character kind of ties those things together. She has the emotional anchor. The character growth really funnels through her. And what I like is that she is someone who feels disconnected, like she doesn't belong. She has a difficult relationship with her family, and she's like a goth kid, right? She's, wearing all black, her face is veiled, like her aesthetic makes her seem like she would be attracted to the dead, and then she is, right? She forms this relationship with the Maitlands, but the relationship that she ends up having with the Maitlands is very traditional and familial, and she gets the things from this dead couple that she's not getting from her actual family. And I think that inversion's very, very interesting.
I think it is too, and something that like doesn't come up very often in this movie either. And again, this is why I keep trying to point away from Delia Dietz, is Delia Dietz dealing with as much as she is. Charles Dietz is not just a villain when it comes to how he monetizes, but look at the way he interacts with Lydia Dietz. When she comes to tell him that there are ghosts in the house, he's like, "Not now, honey. I'm trying to relax."
Yeah,
like he pushes her out of that little office space, I think 2 or 3 different times, very dismissively, when she's coming to him with legitimate things that he should, at the very least, listen to. That your daughter, who is teenage, dressed in all black, is telling you that she is seeing ghosts and interested in death. You should pause and listen to this young girl. And he is so dismissive. I mean, Delia actually does a better job of listening to Lydia when she comes to her. And she's not doing a great job either, but she's not fully dismissive. She'll leave it. I mean, at least she'll let Lydia hang out with her in the kitchen while she's cooking and not just tell her to go away.
Yeah, like, get out of my room.
Charles is terrible. And the great irony, of course, is that Jeffrey Jones turned out to also be
terrible, to the point where they killed him off for the sequel.
They didn't just kill him off, but had a shark bite him in half so you didn't have to look at his face.
Yeah, it was... yeah, because that story kind of was fresh enough in the news that it was really obvious what they did in the sequel.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the last thing about Lydia that I'll say is that she provides the Maitlands with the purpose in the afterlife that they were looking for, right? Like they died, they were lost in the afterlife, they didn't know their way around, they couldn't find their way, and she gave them something to anchor into.
It's interesting because like you kind of started off with saying like the structure doesn't really quite work for you and that the movie doesn't stitch together. But as you're describing it, I actually think it does. Well, like it starts off with them not being able to have children and they actually get to adopt a child.
It does through Lydia. And it's interesting because structurally it doesn't feel that way. But because you have this character, that connective tissue does exist. So it's a flaw in the sense that it's not more obvious, but it's definitely not fatal.
I think it's the time jumps make it feel like everything's breaking apart, but isn't that kind of like life sort of speeds up and slows down and speeds up and slows down?
And the movie's intentionally disorienting.
Exactly. I actually am being slowly convinced that the structure of this film actually works better because you do have a really great payoff in the relationship with Lydia at the end of the film. They get to be these like disembodied parents to a child that really needs it, and they're almost like co-parenting now with the Dietzes. It's, I don't know, like it's a weird happy ending, especially when you consider that the 2 things that are at tension in this film really are like gentrification and commodification, and then sort of like rustic American rural sort of sensibilities, and that they find a way to cohabitate. I don't know what that says.
I don't either.
I'm actually more confused by that now than I was.
Like narrative structure.
I was confused by the structure. Now I'm confused by the theme.
Yeah. Another thing about this movie is we're transitioning out of the performances that connected with me that I really liked is the depiction of the afterlife as being just as inefficient and laden with red tape and bureaucratic as the life that we know on Earth.
Are you Juno, our caseworker?
Yes, I evaluate individual cases and determine if help is needed, deserved, and available.
Are you available?
No. What's wrong?
We're very unhappy.
What did you expect? You're dead.
We want to get rid of the people who have moved in here. Barbara and I worked very hard on this house.
We probably wouldn't mind sharing the house with people who were...
More like you used to be.
Yes.
But these people...
Things seem pretty quiet here. You should thank God you didn't die in Italy. The Dietzes. Okay, have you been studying the manual?
Well, we tried.
The intermediate interface chapter on haunting says it all. Get them out yourselves. It's your house.
So what I like about this is, one, there's just some fun gags in them going through this. So it's fun, it's funny, there are good jokes. The waiting room is hilarious and all the people there and their weird causes of death. But what I really like about this, what I think is one of the best parts of this movie, is it shows that death, the afterlife, does not offer nirvana, right?
Yeah, quite the opposite.
That, you know, and so I think like the lesson there maybe is that you should kind of live in the now. You should make the most of the life that you're living. You should have good relationships. Don't do what the Dietzes are doing, because there isn't, you know, necessarily a promise of greatness coming, right? Like if you sacrifice what you're doing now, you could just end up in something that's just as shitty and inefficient and bureaucratic.
So there's kind of a couple of things that I think I always kind of struggle with in this movie where I actually do lose it. So for one, there's the sort of promise of punishment around suicide. Like you have these characters, you either see it through like Juno's slicing her throat or people who are hanging and going around, but they have to work as basically social workers for the dead if they commit suicide. Which then sort of begs the question, why is Beetlejuice allowed to exit like public service and enter into the private market and become a gig worker? Like that doesn't quite make sense. So if you go into business for yourself, even if you committed suicide, you're allowed to.
I don't know, because he was such a pain in the ass they didn't want him anymore.
Yeah, but who's in charge of that? Like,
yeah,
and that's sort of a bizarre, like sort of like logical loophole in this sort of afterlife world that they've created. But then the other thing is like,
well, I don't necessarily even buy that lesson, but I do think it's something the movie's trying to say.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but I just mean like as far as like the logic of like the other world, the afterlife, whatever it is, it sort of like Beetlejuice is a broken part of that, which he is the center of the movie and the title of it. They're setting up all this logic in it, and then they're just saying, "Except that guy over there, we don't know what to do with him, but he's a good time, isn't he?"
Yeah, and that I think is part of kind of what we've said is the quote unquote problem with the movie is there are these things that are a little disconnected in that way.
Yeah.
There's, you know, the Dietzes, there's the famous sort of Deo dinner scene where they're like possessing, controlling people, proving that they're real ghosts. I have no idea how they know how to do that.
Do you know anything about why that scene came to pass?
No.
So Danny Elfman wanted that song in the movie. He had issues getting songs he wanted in movies earlier because like they would just like the studio would just cut it at the end. Like, oh, we don't need to pay for the song. We don't want it. Blah, blah, blah. They would get rid of it, right? So he and Tim Burton conspired to create a scene in which it happened in the film with the characters moving their mouths to it so that there would be no way to remove the music to make it into something that was diegetic, even though it was happening in a non-diegetic way. So that there was nothing they could do.
Yeah,
so when they handed the movie, so when they handed the movie over to the studio, there was nothing they could do to cut
it over with a cheaper song,
and that's all it was. That is just Danny Elfman's sensibility, and that's the kind of shit that I absolutely love. But that do the thing that you're good at, like practice what you're good at. This is actually something I really liked, and I was kind of parsing this when I was watching it this time, which is Juno is giving what is ostensibly good advice, right? Practice your skills, do what you know. What the fuck do they know about being ghosts? That's terrible advice. How would they know how to do any of those things? The good advice is actually, again, coming from Beetlejuice, but he's so evil that it's difficult to hear it, which is understand your target and figure out what makes them scared. Don't practice your skills and know what you do. Figure out what you need to practice and then do that, because what they're good at doesn't scare anybody because they are the most vanilla, like white bread couple that is excited about wallpaper.
When they think of a ghost, they think of a sheet.
And and stains. And so like, do not practice what you know. Figure out the Dietzes. Learn to understand them. And this is like this disconnection of empathy between these characters. They don't understand why Delia wants to change this house to her own style. Well, the exact same reason that the Maitlands want the house to be their style. It's their home now. So they have a total lack of empathy for these characters, which forces us to have a lack of empathy because we're going through the Maitlands on that journey. When in fact, if they sought to understand them, they either might find that they like them because, I mean, again, I like Delia. I just do.
Yeah.
She's nuts, but she's fun. I even kind of like Otho, even though he's full of himself and kind of a huckster.
Otho's fun.
Yeah, Otho's a good time. But they don't know what scares these people. They have no idea. So much so that, like, to your point, the shrimp isn't scary. It's fun. The sheets don't convince anybody that they're actually ghosts. All it does is annoy Delia that they cut holes in it. And like, this is the Maitlands like fundamental thing, is that they're disconnected. And speaking of the lesson of the movie, like, go back to the beginning. The Maitlands are totally insular from their community. They live in this small town. They take a vacation away from everybody, which, by the way, take a vacation from what? I have no idea.
No clue.
It's a town full of small mom and pop shops. So do they run a small mom and pop shop that they're just like closing down for the week? And why are they so wealthy that they're able to do that? Anyway, they're peculiar characters, and you know so little about them as sort of the center. And I think maybe that's what also makes the film feel strange, is like as the sort of fulcrum of the movie.
Yeah, because so much of the first half really focuses on them.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, without Lydia, like, there really is no movie.
I mean, I agree. Lydia and Beetlejuice are where the movie is, and it ultimately ends up being like where the denouement of the movie, where like you sort of reach that climax, and then resolution is about him trying to come back by marrying Lydia, which I love how gross he is.
He's so gross.
He's so gross. Like, he's a pedophile. He sexually assaults Gina Davis. Like, he
constantly
is
spitting and
into his own jacket at one point. He is disgusting. Wonderfully so.
Yes. And then
it's funny how he has more bodily functions than any of the living characters. You ever think about that?
That is funny that none of those bodily functions ceased when he died.
Well, more that like all the living people don't have any.
I mean, we don't often see the bodily functions of characters on film,
which I have a problem with. But we do see it of a ghost. That's what I'm saying. Like that dichotomy.
It's funny.
It's just
cool.
It's something. He's more alive than anyone else.
The last thing we have to talk about, we alluded to it a little bit already before we jump into the Addams Family, is the visual style of the movie. This too was sort of influenced by German Expressionism, but there's these like skewed angles, forced perspectives, sharp contrasts. It sticks with you, right? When you see the movie, it feels like you're in a world that is different than the one of your own. And then I just really liked that Tim Burton, and this is where kind of the Ed Wood connection comes in, he avoids like cutting edge modern effects. The special effects in this movie are sort of schlocky B-movie effects. It's stop motion, it's prosthetics, there are puppets, there's bad green screen.
I know. When they go to Saturn, the green screen's pretty bad. When they shrink Beetlejuice's head at the end, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. And I love it for that.
It's charming.
Like
because it doesn't
it's really charming. It doesn't artificially date the movie, because it was kind of old and schlocky then, and it's old and schlocky now.
Yeah.
And so I really love that, and you could tell that Tim Burton loved that, and then him going and making the Ed Wood movie, I think, shows that he has an affinity for B movies.
But somehow lost an affinity for it when he made Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, I blame Disney for that.
You blame Disney, not Tim?
I think so.
I think he had enough juice that he could have pushed back if he wanted.
Maybe. I don't know. They wrote a big check.
I mean, be that as it may, I still think he could have gotten what he wanted out of it. Let's get into the Addams Family.
Let's talk Addams.
Look at her. I would die for her. I would kill for her. Either way, what bliss? Unhappy, darling?
Oh, yes. Yes, completely. Gomez. Son, il me perce comme un poignard.
No, Tish. That's French.
Oui.
Cara mia.
En garde, Monsieur Soleil!
Gomez.
Querida.
Last night you were unhinged. You were like some desperate, howling demon. You frightened me. Do it again.
Gomez and Morticia are the absolute heart and center of this film, and I'm just going to call it right now. If for some reason we do choose to remove the Addams Family from the greatest watch list of all time, we must then put the Addams Family values on at some point down the road, because I'm not eliminating one of the few Raul Julia performances that we'll ever get to see, because he died so young and it's so tragic, and he is so perfect in this movie.
Yeah, he passed away like right after the Addams Family Values.
It was the last film he made. It was so incredibly sad. And I feel like we were just being introduced to him on film, and then he was just tragically ripped away from us. And it is unfair because what an incredible talent. Like, just really, 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 like, you see him and you're like, this man was born to be Gomez Addams, and he has so much dynamism on screen. So calling it now must happen.
Must happen. So if we save Beetlejuice today, Addams Family Values will be on an episode against a very bad movie.
Deal?
All right.
Must save Raul Julia.
We must save him.
Must save him.
I will say, like, I really love when an actor brings everything to a role that doesn't necessarily command them to.
I mean, he and Angelica Houston are doing, Angelica Houston, Christina Ricci, and Christopher Lloyd. Mm-hmm. And I could probably even go further down. Honestly, Elizabeth Wilson, who's playing Abigail Craven, is also doing incredible work. Dan Hedaya doing Tully Alford. Dana Ivey, the Margaret Alford character. They're all just doing, I just feel like the performers in this just showed up and fucking brought it. But Raul Julia and Angelica Houston are perfection together.
Well, yeah, and it's the together, right, that is so perfect. They have some of the best on-screen chemistry of any couple in any movie, and it's not even like a romance, really.
But it kind of is. It kind of is, because this movie has a pretty thin plot.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. There's enough plot so that it can be a movie, but it's really just a sandbox to throw these characters into.
It has just about enough to get it through its 90-minute runtime, but not another ounce of juice more. We couldn't have pushed it to 100 minutes on what they had. I mean, it is this family, the Addams, right? They are old wealth. They are counterculture. They're sort of this like great living critique of the modern family and modern family values. But the reality is all of the world around them are consumers. They don't know what to do with their money. They don't know how to keep their money. They don't know how to keep their status. They don't know how to keep their dignity. Whereas the Addamses are perfect at maintaining all of those things, and the rest of the world wants it. So they're coming, and they're beset on all sides by these sort of like vultures that want their money.
Yeah, they get judged for being weird or whatever, right? But they have the two things that everyone wants. They have a tight family that loves and supports each other and is loyal to each other, and then they have money, but they don't actually care about it.
Yeah. And I mean, they care so little about it that they donate that finger trap for the auction, and then they end up bidding against each other to then buy the finger trap back.
Yeah. That auction scene's hilarious.
Oh, I love the auction scene. I thought about including that as well. But this movie really does come in sort of these like short bites and clips where it feels so much like it's a television show, which the irony being that it was deliberately not based on the television show, but it's very episodic.
Yeah, I agree. It does feel like TV. The plot, we mentioned it being very thin, is kind of like the plot that a TV like sitcom would have, right? Where it's just enough to kind of let you spend time with these characters.
Yeah.
But like you said, they specifically avoided basing this on the TV show because the TV show wasn't that successful. So it's funny that it turned out that way.
And I don't think it feels like the original TV show, but it feels like a TV show.
And I wonder if that's because Barry Sonnenfeld just doesn't give a shit about movies.
I mean, it's funny because he says he doesn't give a shit about movies, but he's made some pretty damn
He's made great movies.
He's made some good movies.
You know, it's well established how much both of us love Men in Black.
Yes, we both really love Men in Black. We love all the work he did with the Coens. I really like Get Shorty. Like, I like Barry Sonnenfeld. I think he makes good movies. I think The Addams Family is a good movie. For a first-time director who doesn't care much about movies, I don't know. I'm not sure I 100% buy what he says because...
Could be a shtick.
It could be a little bit of a shtick. He feels a little shticky in like that fun, neurotic Jewish way. And so, like, I don't know. But at any rate, this movie... Yeah, it doesn't quite hold together in the plot, but this relationship, kind of getting back in the relationship between the two of them, like it is the most aspirational, and it came up in the review as well, which is like these people are so loyal to each other, they love each other so fiercely, so intently that you're sort of drawn into the family, that you like, you almost get sold on their macabre humor and their strange style, because you're like, well, they're doing something right, and maybe we're all doing something wrong. And I love the way it poses that question and how it sort of bounces their family off of the Alfords.
Right. Well, I think it definitely has something to say about how, in a society that has family values, right? I mean, it's even the title.
Well, that's in the sequel's title.
The sequel's title, yeah. The values are far more true in the Addamses than in a lot of families where they're performing the values but don't actually have the values.
Well, so like if you look at the Alfords, right? So your first introduction to them is that they're coming up to the Addams house to try to get money from them. They need money because they're into some loan sharks for some other reason, even though he's an attorney. And they clearly detest each other. It's this really loveless marriage. In fact, it feels less like a marriage and more almost like a business partnership.
Yeah, it's not even loveless. I mean, they openly despise each other.
Yeah, precisely. And they're in a lot of financial trouble, but they're the normies. They're the normal people. They're the ones who are conspiring against the weirdos, the Addamses. And then this is the other thing that always makes the Addamses kind of interesting to me, where I'm like, I love this sort of like tension between the fact that they have all these scammers around them, and they're always so kind to them. And I wonder, and I'm curious, like, do they know that they're scammers and that they have so much confidence in their own strength and talents that they don't mind having scammers around them?
I don't think they're naive. I don't think they're naive at all. I think that they, like you said, are very confident. I think because they have the things that everyone wants to have, but often doesn't, they are confident that they have this family that is so strong. They're confident in their relationships with each other. They know that they're supported by each other and that no matter what, everything will be okay, as evidenced by what happens when things sort of start to fall apart. They get stronger together. They don't abandon one another.
Well, Gomez does go into a deep pit of depression.
But the family doesn't fall apart.
The family does not disintegrate. In fact, Gomez is the only one who truly struggles with it. And what I actually love about this, and again, why the family is so important, is that he's not sad that he lost the mansion. He's not even sad that he lost the money.
No,
he's sad that he lost his brother.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
His
even
heart
when
hurts
it's
for
not
the
because
loss
he
of
lost
Fester.
any of those superficial things. It's because it's about the relationship with his brother. And so that's why I think when all of these grifters are around them trying to scam them out of money or whatever,
it's that they can't scam them out of family.
They
so
don't care.
There's no threat.
They don't care. They don't care about the money. They know that they're solid in the things that they actually do care about. And so they let it happen. They let the game unfold because they know that they'll be okay on the other side. I do not read them as naive at all.
No, I don't either. I actually see them more almost like a cat, like cats playing with a toy. Like they're these silly little people and they like to have fun with them and they have a lot of positive intent for people and they give people a lot of like leeway to just kind of do what they want. They let their line go really loose. And then if you cross them though, like you know that Gomez is very dangerous with a sword. He will cut you to shreds, and Lord knows what Morticia would do to you. But it's clear that she has
It's worse than being cut up with a sword.
I love that Morticia is like probably the most threatening character, and yet she barely moves. But like I know that she would destroy. Like the Alford, she would just absolutely rip someone apart.
And it would be quiet and subtle and devastating.
Yeah. The other wonderful thing I love about the Addams' marriage is that they fuck. Like, there is no question. The clip I played, she's like, you were like a demon last night. Do it again. Not only do they fuck, but like their sex has pain involved in it. And you know that it does.
Because when she gets captured and they try to like torture her, she's like turned on by it.
I know. There's something so transgressive about like the female pleasure that takes place within a relatively older marriage that is around like pain and her, like you can tell that she derives intense sexual pleasure from her relationship with Gomez. And it just makes this movie feel like really edgy, really interesting, but especially in that sort of like early 90s.
Because it feels edgy, but it's actually very almost conservative, right?
It's healthy.
Because it's in the context of a loving marriage and family. That's the type of sex you're supposed to approve of.
That's the type
but it feels transgressive because of the way it's presented.
Well, it's also because female pleasure in any films at that time I mean, that's how you basically got an NC-17 rating, was showing that a woman had any type of sexual pleasure. And there seemed to be kind of a resistance to it. I think we've evolved more. I don't think we're all the way there, but we're more open to the fact that women enjoy sex, that women want to have sex within marriages, and that they have more like bodily autonomy. But I think there was still like a lot of backlash to sort of like Reagan conservatism and a lot of that like 50s nostalgia that you have, which is great because this is a nostalgia movie. And this is what I love about how transgressive it is in this way as well, is that it's nostalgic for an era, as we're coming out of an era in which we were nostalgic for a similar era, but it's giving a very different take on like what a family unit can look like and how they can interact with each other in a way that sort of resists that conservative idea, but it actually expresses some kind of conservative values about like the nuclear family, about old money, about kind of taking care of your own, but also opening a welcoming community to those around you. It's really like, it's just playing with all of these dials in these interesting ways that creates this like really fun parody underneath this sort of like thin plot.
Right. And that's what I think I really like, is that it doesn't tell you that the values are wrong. It's saying that you're not doing them.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Although it is saying that the consumerism and all of the like consumption, they're saying that is wrong because that's driven everyone in sort of this destitute, desperate, hungry state where they just need more money, they need more things because they haven't like focused on taking care of their own. And so that's the one place where it is offering a critique of this is what's pulled you away from your family, pulled you away from being better. Now Margaret Alford, she turned, well, I mean, let's actually Fester and Margaret. They're the two people that ultimately are wooed, we'll say, by the Addamses, right? Where they're supposed to go in and scam them. And ultimately they're like, no, actually, this is a better way to live.
Yes.
Now with Fester, and I actually think this undermines the message of the movie, because he's not actually a phony. You think that he's this like craven guy, and then it turns out that he actually
is Fester. He was brainwashed or
he lost
whatever.
his memory in the Bermuda Triangle, and then Abigail Craven found him and adopted him as a son because he has the strength and this power, and she can use him to sort of be an enforcer for her loan sharking business that she runs, which it's all very strange. There's more backstory there than I think anybody ever would want to get into for us to get to where we are.
Especially for a plot where it doesn't really matter very much.
Yeah, there's a lot. And she also takes on that German character very easily.
I love.
There's like no reason for her to do a German accent because they don't know her.
No.
She could just come in and do her. It's like I've never seen her face and wearing a fake mustache for no reason.
But I'm glad she does it because it's hilarious.
That and the scimitar brooch that she wears the whole movie, no idea why. There's so much weird going on with Abigail Craven. But I guess initially he was supposed to be a not Fester. He actually was supposed to be a lookalike that they were going to then just have him integrated into the family, which I actually think serves the movie better because having him actually be Fester, when you find out that he has been basically turned, like he's transformed internally and realized that, oh, this is a better way to live your life. I would rather live in this family unit and have what this is. But when he's actually Fester, you realize, well, he already has access to the fortune, so changing isn't that big of a deal. And he's sort of inherently an Addams, so changing isn't that big of a deal either. The transformation loses a lot of its weight.
The transformation, yes, loses its weight. I agree. It feels a little bit cheap. I think the sort of charitable read is that it's not about transformation, but about finding truth.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, that is a charitable read, but I really think the movie is so much about, like, this appears strange, but when you get close enough to it and you experience the love, the loyalty, the connection, the communication, that, like, it becomes more valuable than whatever else your life was, which is why I don't want to focus on his transformation so much as Margaret Alford's, because hers is actually more interesting to me because she is an outsider that we see her interact with the Addamses initially, and she thinks they're strange, and she doesn't know what to make of them. But then there's the ball, and she comes to the ball, and they dance the mamushka, and she meets Cousin It. And she realizes in meeting Cousin It that she has something missing in her life, that somehow Cousin It is now filling for her. He's interested in her. I actually don't know what gender it is. Maybe this is a homosexual relationship, which I would love.
I don't know enough about Cousin It. I think what matters most about her attraction to Cousin It is that it is very much blank. There's nothing aesthetic there.
Yeah.
There's nothing shallow there. What she is getting from Cousin It has to be interpersonal.
It listens.
Yeah.
it listens to her, and she talks openly about her marriage with it, who she just met, which is kind of messed up. But the other thing that's really weird about Margaret's transformation is what becomes of her son?
Oh, right.
She has a child that's in the play that is dressed as an elf, that she licks a napkin and wipes off his face. But when she leaves Tully Alford and marries it and has a baby, where is her child?
That makes it sad.
It makes it real sad. It makes it real dark. All those family values kind of go out the window.
You ruined it.
I didn't ruin it. They ruined it. That's not me. I just noticed it. It's just, I watched that and I'm like, Margaret abandoned her child, abandoned her family, rather than trying to fix what was wrong with it, left it for Cousin It, which I get leaving Tully. Tully's bad, and Dan Hedaya is so good as Tully.
But bring the kid with you.
Maybe, like, don't completely forget the child. I wonder if they just made a scripting error, because the entire play scene where they go and they perform, which is a great scene, by the way. When they spray
the blood everywhere.
there.
It's hilarious.
That was all written after the fact, so the script as it was delivered didn't have that scene. Barry Sonnenfeld actually wrote that scene.
Might have just been glued into a scene that didn't fit with the rest of the movie.
I think they were supposed to be a childless couple kind of initially, and then they forgot what to do with the elf child that they introduce. So, but it's still there. You can't ignore it, but it wasn't added.
Maybe he's just not in the room at the end of the movie.
But it is one of the scenes that caused the budget to increase as they kept adding in scenes and adding in scripting, because Barry Sonnenfeld really wanted that scene in. In fact, he said that scene was very much inspired by Mel Brooks, the producers. So he really loves when it cuts back to the audience and the audience is just frozen and the Addams will stand up and applaud like that.
Covered in blood.
The juxtaposition. Oh my gosh, it is a superb scene. I'm glad it's there. But the elf child leaves me with a little sadness in my heart.
I, much like his mother, forgot about the elf child.
Let's talk a little bit about the score. So the original Finger Snap score was by Vic Mizzy, the classic dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. They obviously wanted to keep that, even if they weren't necessarily going to the show, because that is such an iconic score. And so
it would be obvious if it was missing.
It would be, yeah. So Mark Shaman did the score for this, and he had done When Harry Met Sally, City Slickers, and Misery, so he'd kind of been around.
He had a connection.
All right. Everybody, really quickly, things are going to look a little different. One of our cameras completely overheated, and we can't get it to work, so Michael is now...
It was all the steam coming out of Gomez and Morticia's bedroom.
They are causing a lot of friction in there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I actually worry about chafing.
I don't know. They seem like they know what they're doing. I'm sure they're taking the proper precautions.
Yeah, but I also don't think that they have total control over themselves.
That is possible.
At any rate, we are switching to a backup camera, so Michael's going to look a little different for the rest of this episode. Thanks for bearing with us. Anyway, the music, so it sounds amazing. Like it is a great reimagining of that original score. He did fantastic work. The other thing I want to talk about was production design. So kind of interesting. Richard McDonald is credited as a production designer. The only thing of note that I saw that he did was The Firm, which I don't really think of that movie for its production design.
No.
But Anthony Pratt is uncredited, could not figure out why. Did a bit of digging, didn't find anything, but he had done The Phantom of the Opera, Band of Brothers, and probably most clearly Hook.
See, that's kind of fascinating in that it makes more sense. Like you see his fingerprints on this as the uncredited designer.
Exactly. So when there were nominations, which there were, they only went to McDonald. So, what do you do about it? But I do think the production design in this is fantastic. In fact, I really like Fester's room. There's all these great details in the background. There's a banner for a very strange national park or state park in Maine where it looks like it's sand dunes, but in the middle of Maine, and it was caused by this volcanic eruption that happened like millions of years ago. And there's just a little banner for having visited there by some scouts. And it's like, I want to know the significance of that. Why is that in Fester's room? I mentioned earlier, cinematography is nuts on this movie. They went through 2 DPs. Sonnenfeld had to take over duties himself. It has a good look, but the look kind of falls. I actually think it falls apart as the movie goes on. And I don't know if it was shot in order or if it's just kind of scattered. I think the look holds together much better in the sequel, which, again, if we do cut this movie, we will be doing. Lots of health issues with this movie. Raul Julia had health issues. Sonnenfeld's wife had health issues. This movie just had a lot of production issues. And so I do think it feels a little bit disconnected because of that. They had to stop shooting so many times. They had production issues. But really, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't think I saw this movie until maybe last year for the first time. And I really like this movie. Like, it makes me laugh. It makes me happy. I love this family. I love the people at the center of this family. I love Christina Ricci. She is, I mean, you get why she became a star. Like, she is phenomenal as Wednesday. And then anytime Christopher Lloyd is doing his weirdness, I'm kind of here for it. Although I will admit Fester is not one of my favorite of his characters. He's a little subdued as Fester.
Yeah, I think there's enough Christopher Lloyd in there that the character, you know, is weird enough for this family.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not the best Christopher Lloyd.
It's not. So it is time to decide which movie packs the bigger emotional punch. Are you ready, Michael?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I know what we're doing.
I don't know. I just changed at the last minute.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready. Oh, dang. You went Addams as well.
I did go Addams.
I almost went Beetlejuice. I was like, you know what? It's a lot of fun. It's funny, but I don't know about you, but Gomez and Morticia, man.
I think for me, it's that the emotional connection, the relationship, the family, is kind of everything in this movie, right? Like we criticize the plot for being thin. It doesn't really bother me that much, but the movie is just sort of a series of gags. It's one-liners, it's visual gags, but the thing that holds it together is this family. It is the relationship, and I think all of the meat, the reason to be there, is actually the emotional element of it.
I think that's really well put. I have nothing to add to that.
Well, thank you.
I love that family, and I want to be with them, and I feel more connected to them. So the most important question is, which movie do you want to eat popcorn to the most, Michael?
Yeah,
which is the most entertaining?
This is a tough one.
It's not an easy one because they're both a good time.
They're both entertaining. They're both, relatively light. They're funny. They're easy watches. They kind of breeze by. I had a great time with both of them.
I did too.
I'm glad we revisited these movies.
Same.
I actually think I liked both of them more on this watch than I did on, whenever the last time I watched them were.
They're both very rewatchable.
Yeah.
I think they both grow, and maybe that is that nostalgic element we talked about, but like their flaws seem to be diminished with rewatches, whereas I think their strengths almost like inflate as you watch it.
I agree.
As you watch each, which is something special.
We dug into some of the flaws, right? And then at the end of the day said that either they weren't that big of a deal, or maybe they're not even as flawed as we maybe initially anticipated or perceived, because the other stuff does more of the heavy lifting to kind of make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really glad we revisited these because they were movies I already liked, but they grew on me even more.
Yeah, they're both good popcorn movies. They're both just great,
they're really funny. They're both really funny.
They're both funny. They both have really fun, unique characters that are fun to watch on screen. I can't get enough of Morticia. Angelica Houston striking that silhouette and just holding that pose all the time. There's something just magical about it. It's like she doesn't even walk. She just floats across the floor, strikes a pose. I'd watch 90 minutes of her just walking around that house.
I think that's what you get when you cast really great actors who have done more serious work and put them in projects like this. Is you kind of see why they get the credit that they get the credit for in other movies, because they bring that A game to anything.
Yeah.
And it really elevates these movies.
It really, really does. So they're both intensely entertaining, but I think I know.
I think I do too.
Yeah, I think I know which one gets the entertainment award from me. This one.
Yeah.
On three?
On three.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I went Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is just manic good time. There are some stretches of Addams Family that are a little bit of a snooze.
Yeah, whereas Beetlejuice, when it starts to get a little uneven, when we spend too much time with the Maitlands, there is always a Delia Dietz or a Beetlejuice to come back to. And just the energy that those characters bring, it feels more like a fun roller coaster than it feels like those lulls are a weakness. And then just visually, I think It's really fun. I love the schlocky stop motion animation. I love the color palette. I love the costumes.
Oh, the costumes are great. I
love how horrible Delia's taste in interior design is. I just have such a good time.
Maybe it says something about me, but her taste in interior design has weirdly grown on me.
Oh, that I think says something about you, and I don't know if I like what it's saying.
It's so bizarre. It's like, I don't know. There's something about it that's like walking to like a theme park room where I'm like,
I appreciate how unapologetic it is.
Yeah. I don't know that it's unified, but I mean, we say her, but really, I mean, Otho seemed to have the creative,
and I like Otho, so I guess I'll forgive some of the style because he's a party.
Oh my God, Otho is a blast, but such a huckster. He was a hairstylist and an interior designer, and somehow also has a history in.
He was a paranormal researcher,
being a medium. He seems to have dabbled in many different skills and trades.
Just an entrepreneur who has really leaned into hustle culture, Ian.
I was going to say, how would he do in the YouTube era?
Great.
I know. That guy would be murdering right now. You know, we talk about the Maitlands are so white bread and boring. It's like they're supposed to spend 125 years on Earth, and yet somehow not around in Beetlejuice.
Okay.
It is time. So we're going to delete one of these films from the greatest watch list of all time. If we get rid of Beetlejuice, we basically delete the entire, like, Gothic, macabre, fun, parody, craziness of the 90s that comes out of this because so many people wanted to capture what was Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we feel about doing that, but if we get rid of the Addams Family, we lose Raul Julia's incredible performance.
And the only one a lot of people know him for.
I know, and that's the thing that breaks my heart about it, which is why I made that deal at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We lose that phenomenal relationship. We honestly lose a connection to a great property from like the 1940s and 1950s.
Yeah, because these characters are really iconic. People recognize the Addams Family. They know Cousin It. They know Lurch. They know Thing, even if they haven't actually like watched all of the media.
Mm-hmm.
So it has penetrated the culture in an important way. We all know those snaps.
We know the snaps, but we don't know like the connection and why. I think that like the Morticia Gomez relationship is a thing we don't know, and it's the best thing about it.
Yeah.
And you have to watch the movie to know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the movie's almost, the cultural impact is great only if it draws you into this really great movie.
Yep. So it is now time to make the decision as to which movie goes on the Essential Cut.
Let's do it. All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Yeah, as much as it's a bummer to cut the Addams Family, this actually wasn't that tough of a choice to make.
It wasn't. This was probably one of the easier ones that we've had, because the Addams Family has these like nuggets in it that are so wonderful and so enjoyable, but the rest of it feels kind of replaceable and forgettable in a way that like makes it hard to save. It's
I want to preserve elements of it.
Yeah.
But Beetlejuice, I think, actually has more pieces that work. It comes together, I think, better now that we've talked about it a little bit than I initially thought.
Yeah.
And the lineage is just too important, I think.
Beetlejuice is doing what Drive did, which is it penetrated the culture on many, many levels.
Yeah.
But the difference is between this and Drive, at least by my estimation, is that it actually has more substance and heart.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, it's got the style that makes you just like want to grab the colors, grab the styles, or just look at them because they're fun and they're interesting. But there's also a really, really fun comedy, fun story. And it's something that says something really interesting about gentrification, about yuppieism in sort of the late 80s that is, I think, a message worth preserving.
It is. And I also think you get some of the family stuff there, too.
So it is settled. Beetlejuice will be going on the Essential Cut watch list, on the greatest watch list of all time. The Addams Family will be eternally cut from it. There will be no more watching the Addams Family. But based on my prior
But weirdly, we're going to watch the sequel to the movie that no longer
it's not on the watch list. It exists. It's still on the watch list. We can't delete the future movies. That's crazy. That's crazy. It also would create way too much issue for us in continuity as we continue the show forward.
This is true.
It would
be a disaster.
Make the show impossible. There'd be no movies left. So we, at some point in the future, promise we will do Addams Family Values, and we will save it.
I mean, It's really going to depend on what it's against, Ian. I can make no promises there.
And we will save it. I'm not letting Raul Julia go.
I feel like I'm being threatened.
Can you think of another Raul Julia movie that we can save?
No.
Exactly. So we have to save it. There's no way around it. So spoiler for whenever we do that episode, it's happening. Michael, I think that's it. We have done the dirty work again for all of you. You're welcome. Take us out.
Next time on The Essential Cut, we are leaving the underworld to go deep undercover.
In the Addams Family, Thing is a helpful hand, offering you a pat on the shoulder when you're feeling lonely and a scalp massage when you're feeling blue.
But in our next episode, when a severed hand appears on screen, it's the portent of something far more sinister.
That's right. Next week, we're tossing out our burner phones, filing the serial numbers off of our sidearms, and letting our mothers know we won't be home for supper. We're covering Martin Scorsese's 2006 double-agent crime thriller, The Departed.
And, facing off against The Departed, the 1997 neo-noir masterpiece where a ruthless web of corruption drags mid-century Hollywood straight into the gutter, L.A. Confidential.
2 movies where nobody is who they seem to be, but only one will be brought in from the cold.
Thanks for watching or listening to The Essential Cut this week. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, whatever it is you're going to do to give us feedback. Vote in our polls. All of that helps the show grow. You can follow us on Instagram, Threads, Letterboxd. I am at Michael_upleft. And Ian, where are you?
I'm at Ian_upleft, and I'm also on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and I go see lots of new movies and like to review and push movies. I'm looking forward to a couple this summer right now. Actually, I think next month, I think Masters of the Universe might have to happen.
I'm weirdly excited about Masters of the Universe. I think it looks like a really good time.
I think it looks like a hot mess that I really want to be a part of.
Yeah, same.
So I will definitely put my review up about that once I see it. This has been a good month for it, though. We got Sheep Detectives. I got the Billie Eilish concert movie. Both great movies. May's been awesome. May's been really good. Looking forward to June. I know this will come out in June, but, it's hard to think in the future. So, yeah, follow me there.
Come back next week when we are pitting The Departed against L.A. Confidential.
Bye-bye. The Essential Cut is an Uplift Media production. Written, researched, and hosted by Ian Tarter and Michael Smith. Produced, sound engineered, and edited by Ian Tarter. With special thanks to Rosie Page.